Welcome to Seeing Scarlet. It is Shelby, and I have a special guest, Mike Vaccaro, here from UNCW. He's the play-by-play voice for the basketball team and baseball as well. But of course, today we're talking all basketball because Texas Tech and these UNCW Seahawks are taken to the court on Thursday night. Very late, y'all. Very late. We all know it's late, especially for those East Coasters. People that watch our show know that I am a reformed East Coaster, I would say. I just moved back to Texas a week ago, but I lived over in North Carolina for a while. So I know UNCW, the school, pretty well. Great town in Wilmington, all the things. But I want our fans to get to know y'all a little bit better going into the game, both from a basketball perspective, stories, whatever you want to share in this, Mike. So thanks for joining the show and letting our fans get to know you guys a little bit better.
Yeah, Shelby, thanks for having me here today, and I know we're excited to be back in the big dance. It's been a couple of years for us. 2017, the last time UNCW men's
Yeah.
basketball was in the NCAA tournament. They were in back-to-back years, 2016 and 2017. Kevin Keats was the head coach at that time. He took NC State, obviously, last year to the Final Four. So it's been a couple of years. Takeo Siddle, the head coach, he was an assistant to Kevin Keats. Came back here after a couple of years in Raleigh with Keats, and fifth year now here at UNCW back in Wilmington. And we did a radio show earlier today, and he just reiterated that this was a job that he wanted. He wanted it because he knew how special this place was, UNCW, as you mentioned, Wilmington on the coast, and just how special the basketball program is and can be. We've had 7 CA championships. So for us, 7 NCAA appearances, 1 win against USC back in 2002.
Remember
But
that.
to bring this team back to that, it's a point of pride, I think, for Takeo Siddle. It's a fan base that, thrives on men's basketball. We're good in a lot of different sports. Baseball is another one that has typically made NCAA regionals. They actually won the conference back-to-back years and are the preseason favorite this year. But so many fans around here get excited, get hyped up about men's basketball. So to see them have a great season, leading into the conference tournament, and then win 3 games in 3 days to get back to this spot. It's been great. For me, I've been around here 21 years
Yeah.
now, and for the 7 championships, been lucky enough to call 4 of the 7. So making my 4th NCAA appearance personally as well, which is always fun. As
It's
you know,
fun.
you're around these events, and there's nothing like it when you're in an NCAA tournament in that setting and seeing all the different teams, different coaches, for me, different announcers on the national stage, and also the team announcers. It's always great to see and have a chance to talk to some of those folks, and learn from them as well during these types of events. So yeah, everyone's just excited to be back here, and again, we'll see what happens come as you said, late night Thursday night on the East Coast. It'll be at 10:10,
Slate.
9:10 there in Wichita once we get there. So we're looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, no, yes. I love y'all's story. It's so cool when teams can get back. Texas Tech had their own little lull there way back after, Knight retired and that little bit. And then we had Tubby and he finally got us back. And then the Chris Beard years. And now here we are with McCaslin and everybody's loving life right now and having a lot of good times. I think it's going to be a good game. If you had to give about this year's team specifically, like an elevator type pitch on this year's basketball team for our fans as far as either, how they play or personality or whatever our fans should expect to see on the court, what would that be from the Seahawks?
Well, toughness is kind of the key word around this program, and that's something that Takeo Siddle brought to it. He actually has the toughness chain that he gives to a player after a win who exemplifies the toughest player out there. And it's not necessarily the player that scores the most points. It may be the guy that dives on the floor, gets the rebounds, does those little things that that is a difference sometimes between winning and losing, especially in a tournament setting. So toughness is definitely the calling card of this team and this program right now under Takeo Siddle, which is I think very similar to Texas Tech, probably under Grant McCaslin, because when he was at North Texas, these two teams hooked up, UNCW North
Yep.
Texas in the Bahamas. It was a low scoring game, 55-51, the championship game. UNCW won that game. So it's a little crazy to see these two teams, same coaches, but now both teams scoring in the 80s.
Yeah,
But
different
again, it
different
sounds like
styles.
there's still obviously that defensive mentality from the coaches, and I think you're going to see that toughness play out. It's going to be whoever makes that defensive play, whoever gets that stop, whoever gets the rebound. That might be the difference in a game like this.
I love that, and I think our fans are gonna I'm glad you said that because I was going to bring it up if you didn't, which I'm not shocked you did. Is our motto under Grant McCaslin's been toughest team wins, and I've seen UNCW's basketball account tweet the same thing, and I know our fans are going to be like, "Wait a second, that's our thing," and I'm like, "No, guys, like other people use the same thing. They have similar vibes. We just don't usually see it." Kind of playing a team that is just like us in that way. I mean, obviously we play Houston and players teams like that in the Big 12 that have similar mindsets, but they do. Yeah, y'all have a very similar mindset, and I think that's why it it's gonna be a fun game because we can sometimes teams will get out there and we just out tough them and it's over
Yeah.
before it starts because they just can't match our toughness. I don't think that's gonna necessarily now. Let me say, Grant's gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna be the tougher team, and y'all are gonna say you're gonna be the tougher team. That's what you do. But I think it's gonna be a battle physicality wise. But the interesting thing about these two matchups, other than that, is they're very similar on toughness, and they're very similar in offensive like rating. Like they're
Yeah.
very highly rated offensively. The exact same pace of play, 65, exact same. But they go about it in completely different ways, which I think is really cool in this day and age of basketball where, listen, I love analytics. Everybody loves analytics. And everyone's like, you have to play this type of style of basketball to succeed in 2025. And this is the only way to do it. No, these are two teams that are both very highly rated, score points, go about it in completely different ways. So we like to shoot a lot of threes. Yeah, we have the Big 12 Player of the Year who is a post player, but we also still like to get it up quite a bit from outside. When you look at the metrics, y'all shoot a lot in the paints.
Mm-hmm.
We shoot a lot from the outside, different percentages. But just talk a little bit about y'all's style of play and kind of how y'all get it done offensively because you do score a lot of points. It's just very different how the teams go about it.
Yeah, I think what they've done great, especially the second half of the season, is they're not hunting threes. They will shoot the three within the rhythm of the offense, right? And
For
and
sure.
I think that's what's made this team a little bit better down the stretch. It's only 8 players that play. They all know their roles. The starting five, and then sometimes those three guys off the bench are coming in together. But you know, they'll work the ball around. They'll look to drive. They get to the free throw line quite a bit. As you said, they. We've had a nice post presence this season, scoring a lot of points in the paint. We've got a 7-footer, true 7-footer, and Harlan Obioha,
Yep.
transfer from Niagara, who's played really well down the stretch. And then Kamari McGriff, a guy coming off the bench who was a starter. Harlan is kind of that big, tough, physical guy, and then you got a finesse guy in Kamari McGriff, so they really balance each other out very well. Sometimes, very often, or not that often, they'll be on the court at the same time. But they do well, when they're taking their own turn on the court, and you put them together. You look at the end of the night and their numbers when you put them as one position and one guy, are off the charts. So,
Yep.
so yeah, it's not as much, looking for the 3-point shot as Texas Tech, but that's definitely, that's something that's hurt UNCW defensively as well. Teams that have shot the ball well from the outside, at times, those have been the teams in the games that UNCW have lost this season. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustment they make going against a team like this that can shoot it that well from the perimeter. How do they do that without getting too spaced out and creating driving lanes for the athletic players that the Red Raiders have as well?
Yeah, I do think the 3-point line defensively for you guys will be obviously a key. It's a key for anybody that plays Texas Tech, but if that's been a weakness, of course, it's going to be even more. I think an area that Texas Tech is going to be preparing for, and it goes along with that toughness thing, is the rebounding side.
Mm-hmm.
7-footer. We have some tall guys, but we don't have a 7-footer. But y'all do offensively rebound it pretty well. Can you talk about is it just the toughest team kind of attitude, or is there more to it than that?
No, I think that was an emphasis going into the year. One of the emphasis is, they have so many guards on this team, but it's some of the guards that are leading the way. Sean Moore, transferred from Fairleigh Dickinson, he's actually the leading rebounder on the team this season. It's not Harlan Obioha, who's second right now, but I think it's been an emphasis to say, hey, teams are going to take long threes. You've got to box out, whether you're a guard, whether you're a big. You've got to make sure that you're getting those rebounds and getting the ball moving the other way. So I think that's been an emphasis this season. Assist and being a team has been an emphasis as well. We've been very talented the last couple of years, but not as much team oriented. There's been a couple of guys that have, can handle the basketball. They would pass it to them. They do their thing. So even though the record was great, the assist for this team has not been good until this year, where they're assisting on over 55% of their made shots this year. So I think that's been, another key. I think, like I said, the toughness, but team more than
Yeah.
anything else. I think it's the best team in the 5 years that Takeo Siddle has had. And that says something because he's had to bring 4 or 5 guys into this team from the transfer portal just to replace guys that graduated, guys that left transferring out as well. So I think it's definitely the best coaching job he's done in the last 5 years, and not a surprise really that they're at this point because he's poured so much into this, and the team has kind of played into it as well, and had this one goal of winning a championship and getting this team back to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that team aspect is something when you look at y'all's stats that
Yeah.
jumps out to me is I think there's like 7 or 8 of them that average at least 7 points a game, or and maybe about the same that are averaging 20 points a game. You said it's about an 8-man rotation, but they're 20 minutes a game. They're just
Yes.
even. And you mentioned was it McGriff that comes off
Yeah.
the bench, but he's your second leading scorer.
Yeah.
So like it's just an interesting team the way that they pump them out, because Texas Tech sometimes will. We have a 6-7. We've been having to play a 6-person rotation of late. We have some injuries coming into the tournament. Hopefully they're healthy, but sometimes ours can get pretty short. And then you have someone coming off the bench like that. So I think that's really cool, and an aspect that we'll have to be ready for sure is
Yeah.
that anybody can score on any night. It feels like for you guys that comes in the game.
Going into the year, we had maybe 11 or 12 man rotation, to be honest
Mm-hmm.
with you, and then a couple of injuries, a
For
couple
sure.
of guys that were dismissed from the team. It kind of got it down to this 8. And I think that's when this team kind of started to get on a run and get on a roll, because it's great to have that depth, but I'm not sure. It was harder, I think, for Takeo Siddle to manage all those guys and make sure they all got their minutes. Now that he's
Yeah,
down
it's
to
tough.
8, all these guys know, like you said, they're playing 20 minutes or so. And the formula during a 9-game win streak was 4 guys, 5 guys were in double figures, so everybody was contributing. Everyone's going to have an opportunity on the floor. So I think having this 8-guy rotation has been much much better for him. This team has been much improved because of that. Ironically, it's crazy, kind of an injury made it go from 9 players to 8 players, but it's worked out well for this team, and all these guys are contributing. And some of them aren't as consistent night in and night out from a scoring standpoint. But if they're not scoring, they're doing other things, whether it be rebounding, whether it be diving on the floor, whether it be distributing the basketball, getting some assists. So again, it's why they're at the point, why there are back in the NCAA tournament right now. They're just playing that well.
Yeah, yeah. Our fan base, they're in what we like to call UNCW hate week right now. We like to have a lot of fun on social media. But if we were not playing y'all, I know that if they watch this team, they'd be like, oh, we like this team. We like how they play basketball. So you touched a little bit on a storyline there that y'all came together throughout the season where there were some players dismissed from the team or injuries. What are some storylines? You're the broadcaster. I know you know those more than anybody. We love to tell stories on this. What are some really cool stories about the players or the team as a whole that have come out this year?
Well, I think Donovan Newby is a great story. He's the leading scorer on this team. And I don't think they expected that to be the case. To be honest, I think they thought they recruited above him and over him in the transfer portal, but he works so hard in the off season. He works hard outside of practice to get better. And I think once they came together and the season started, they realized this is our leader this year. And unlike in the past, we've had leading scorers that, again, they get the ball one on one, they try to drive and score, and they get their points that way. He's worked more in the offense to make that happen. Really was a starting point guard and then shifted to the 2 guard with Greedy Williams, who was a junior college transfer who took over that point guard role, and that made Donovan Newby even better, I think, offensively. But there's been nights where he struggled. Quarterfinal game, he only had 9 points, but he had 9 points late in that game to help get past Hampton to move on to the semifinal round, and then he had a big game in the semifinal round against Charleston, and a huge game with 17 points in the championship game. Had the final 4 points in the free throw line. He was 18 for 18 from the free throw line in the CA tournament. So he's one of the nation's best free throw shooters, and he's clutch right now.
I think, and I'll let you tell some more stories if you have them, but before that, on a stat line thing, that actually is another stat to watch. I noticed that y'all get to the free throw line quite a bit, and we tend to send people to the free throw line quite a bit. So I'm sure that's something both coaches are talking about. So sounds like he'll be a big factor in that if it's going well for y'all. So fans
Yeah, I
can
mean,
watch that.
all these guys that drive these days, and they're so good at drawing the contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we're one of the best right now of doing that, getting to the free throw line and knocking them down, especially in the tournament time. So, I think that's, like you said, that's a stat definitely to look at throughout the year. It's been a big part of the offense right now. And this team, with so many pieces together, this was the year that it felt that this team could make a foreign tour, have a foreign trip prior to the season, and that's what they
Okay.
did. They went to the Bahamas. They played a couple games there, but I think more importantly than those games, we're just getting this group together, getting that camaraderie started because of all the different pieces. And I think that's where it did begin with this team. And then you start the season and you have some adversity here and there and learn through that. But, that they usually, it's a team that has learned from losses as well. The last 4 years under Takeo Siddle, longest losing streak has been 3 games.
Whew, it's
This
impressive.
year it was only 2 games. So he's done a good job of kind of learning and teaching this team after a loss, making those corrections, and then having an opportunity like Hampton was a team that we eventually played in the quarterfinal round in the CAA tournament. Well, it could have been another team, Elon, but Takeo Siddle wanted Hampton because that was the last loss we had. So he
Ooh.
wanted to prove and get these kids. Hey, he knew he was going to get them focused well because that was their last loss that they had. So he's done a great job to KO Siddle, I think, in the mind game and different things, especially last week with the conference tournament and trying to get this team mentally prepared. And now
Yeah.
I think it'll be the same way here. Again, he's been in this spot in the NCAA tournament in the past as an assistant coach, but he feels like that experience is going to help him to kind of navigate through, last first couple of days, the media day, the practice, and everything else until you tip it up on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's just because it's been a little bit for the program. I'm sure some of the players, maybe some that have transferred in, have. I don't know if any of them have experience, but
Yeah,
that is.
Sean Moore, he was playing. He played for Fairleigh Dickinson when they knocked off
Oh
number one
yeah,
Purdue a couple years
that's
ago. He
right.
had 19 points, so I think he's the only one though that has NCAA experience on this roster. So he might be one, even though he's new this season. He's been a starter, obviously, but he might be
In
talking
a
to the
very
guys. Hey,
similar role.
here, here's what to expect. Here's what the practice is going to be like. Here's what media day is going to be like. Here's what it's going to be like come game day. So it's going to pay dividends, you would hope, if you're UNCW to have somebody like Sean Moore in your locker room right now.
Especially as a 14 going against a 3. I mean,
Yeah.
they had 15 over a 2 or 16
Yeah,
over a 1 that year.
16 over
16,
a
yeah.
one.
I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
16 over the
crazy.
second 16 over
Only
the
one
one
that, yeah.
after
After
UMBC beat
Virginia.
Virginia.
Oh man, we have bad memories with Virginia
Yeah,
over here at
yes,
Texas
I'm
Tech, but
sorry.
you can't mention that name. It's too
Well,
soon.
we played Virginia 2017 in
Okay.
Orlando. So that was when that group were freshmen, Ty Jerome, Kyle Guy, those guys, and
Kyle
then
Guy.
they lose to UMBC, and then they win the championship. So kind of we got them started on that road to the championship.
Thanks.
Unfortunately for you and
Thanks
Red
for that.
Raiders fans.
Thanks for that. I was at that game. I'm never gonna watch the TV version. I will never be able to watch the TV version. Pain, overtime, the calls, the Kyle Guy trip that was
Yeah.
not a trip. Anyway, we're getting off topic. But yeah, so that's great. Yeah, so that is a great point. He'll have some experience
Yeah.
going into this, but that is always tricky first time in a bit. But they'll be excited to get it done.
Yeah.
Speaking of the upset, not to put you on the spot, but if UNCW is going to upset Texas Tech, what will happen in your mind, knowing the team as you do?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the defense has to be off the charts. This probably has to be the best defensive effort they've had all year long. They've got to get those 50-50 balls, and it sounds like it's two teams that are going to be diving on the floor to get them.
Yeah.
So you got to get down there before they do. And I think the rebounds, again, are going to be a big factor here. And just being calm. Teams are going to make runs in the NCAA tournament. That's just the way it is, right? Whether it's UNCW making a run, Texas Tech has to be calm. The same thing on the reverse side. As the number 3 seed, you're going to make a run. How do you respond to it? UNCW, once again, this is their 7th trip. It'll be their 8th game. They're 1-6. In the 6 losses, it's by an average of 6 points.
Very close.
So they've been in all these games in these tournaments, even going back to their very first time in 2000 against Cincinnati. So, again, it's a program that's kind of been here, even though this head coach hasn't been here as a head coach. He's been here before. So I think, again, the mental game, during those runs, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Do you stay calm? Do you, wait to call the timeout, wait for the media timeout so that you're not giving the team the advantage of having called that timeout? I think that's part of it too during this setting is that to make sure you're taking it one timeout at a time, right? From media timeout to media timeout. Don't get too big. Don't look
Yeah.
beyond the next play. And I think, again, Takeo Siddle's done that. As broadcasters, we're doing that. We're looking at the next round. We're looking at the Final Four. We're
Yeah,
looking at the
we
next
gotta do
everything,
it. They can't.
right? But he does a good job of, hey, he told me in the locker room before the championship game in the second half, be good at the next play, be good at the next play. And he's done that throughout his career. He never looks ahead. So his kids never look ahead. They just look one play at a time. And I think that's what you need to do during this time of the year, tournament time. If you're going to advance, you've got to do that. You've got to have that mindset.
It's like the same team or something. Yeah, that's it's going to be good watching these coaches go at it, these teams go at it. It's going to be a battle, I think. And one last thing, I guess. Well, maybe not the last thing. We'll see how long we keep you on here. But I did see that y'all played Kansas earlier in the year. I remember that game. You feel like there'll be anything you'll pull from that? It was a while ago. Y'all hung with them in the first half, if I remember right. So that
Yeah,
is a little bit of Big 12 experience. I think us and Kansas are very different teams, but still athlete wise, similar kind of vibes as far as Big 12 athletes.
Yeah, I think honestly, UNCW and Kansas are two different teams than they were back then. I think Kansas was probably
Yes.
better then than they are now, maybe. And the reverse for
Confidence wise, for
UNCW. Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
Again, I think this team for UNCW probably has some more confidence. Um, back then I think it was more players. So again,
Yeah.
some of the key guys now weren't getting as many minutes. Harlan Obioha, who's a Kansas guy, he didn't have a very good game. I think being back home got to him. UNCW
Second
hope that doesn't
round.
happen second time
Yeah.
here in Wichita, but I think that's probably on his mind, and hopefully, again from a Seahawk perspective, that's on his mind in a good way that he wants
Yeah.
to make amends for that. Is he just didn't play well in that game? So, and again, you're in a big stage, Allen Fieldhouse, playing the
Tough
number one team at the
place.
time. It's human nature, right? So I'm sure, and Harlan, he's an energy guy too. Plays with his heart on his sleeve. He's an energy guy. When things are going well, the rest of the team feeds on him. He has a good time out there. He'll talk. He'll talk to the other players. He'll talk to the fans. He'll talk to the coaches. He just kind of has a good time out there. So I'm sure, again, his performance against Kansas is going to be on his mind as he wants to perform well back in his home state for a second time.
I love that. I'll be quietly rooting for him to have a great game, but like just not win,
He
of
cracks me
course.
up. You keep an eye on him, and he'll make you
Got it.
laugh. He's just an energy guy. Sometimes it's plus, sometimes it's a negative if people get in his head. But
We have
if
some
he
of
can have
those.
fun
Yeah.
with it out there, and his coach, Takeo Sito said he's just a basketball junkie. He knows so much about college basketball beyond UNCW. Some of these guys don't do that. They know
Yeah.
UNCW, they know their school, then that's it. Their conference, that's it. But Harlan knows what's going on around the country in college basketball, so I'm sure he's as excited about anybody to be part of the NCAA tournament.
That's cool. Yeah, and being from Kansas, it doesn't surprise me. Very rich basketball tradition in
Yeah.
there. So, yeah, that's awesome. You kind of mentioned a little bit about him and UNCW or whatever it is, but I mentioned earlier our fans. They like to have fun on social media. So if they found you on social media, they might have already added you. If not, just steer clear or have fun with it. Whatever you want to do. We're nice people. We like to have a good time. We just like to talk. We're like Harlan, I think.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
him, but in the fan version. We like to have fun out there. What are some things our fans should know about UNCW that maybe they could use in a little bit of going
Use
things
against
that
us.
y'all hate
Yeah,
besides that team up in Chapel Hill being associated with them? I know that's a no-no, but
yeah.
other than that, what are some things that just about the university or about the team or the history of basketball maybe they should know to avoid, or if they want to get in a battle to go at it?
Yeah, like you said, I also work marketing, so I hate to walk on campus and you see the light blue, you see the royal blue, you see the red, you see the purple. We don't like to see that. We want to
Yeah.
see Seahawks be proud to be Seahawks. So that's a big part. Teal Tuesdays. Tuesdays are Teal Tuesdays at UNCW. You're typically
Oh,
wearing teal on campus. You're supporting the teal,
I
and that's a
like
big
it.
part of what we do. Um,
Actually, not to interrupt you, how long until y'all's administration pulls a UNC Charlotte, which you cannot say in the athletic department? If
right.
anyone works in sports media, you know that you can call them UNC Charlotte on the academic side, but do not. They are Charlotte in
Yes.
sports.
Yes.
I guess you can't just be Wilmington though. That would be
Yeah,
confusing.
because we have had issues at times where a team has a bus go to Wilmington, Delaware to pick them up. They're not sure, or a flight goes to Wilmington, Delaware. So yeah, it would be nice to say Wilmington and people
Differentiate.
know who you are. Our struggle right now is, from an athletic standpoint, we call ourselves UNCW, and some
Yeah.
people still say UNC Wilmington.
Yep.
So I think we finally got CBS on the score bug to put UNCW up there, which is great. Again, from a marketing standpoint, we like that. So, we're by the beach. We try to be chill, but, we're feisty as well. So,
I've
like you
seen it
said,
already.
our fan base
They're
has
having
been
fun.
great. We've got a lot of alums that are our fan base that come down here, and a lot of them stay in this area as well because it's just a great place to live. Being on
It's
the coast.
beautiful.
I'm from Pennsylvania originally myself, and I've been down here in North Carolina for a long time after going to school up north. And I think if I knew about UNCW when it came time for school, I probably would have come down here myself and
Mm-hmm.
been here a lot longer. But it's a great place. It's we this year we came up with the moniker of Titletown, Tidal town,
I like
because
it.
the last 2 years we've had 5 conference championships. This year already we have 3: men's basketball, men's swimming and diving, and women's swimming and diving. And it's a chance for maybe some more with baseball. Softball was a champs last year as well. Men's golf is usually pretty good. Women's golf, men's tennis is a 4-time championship in a row here. We've had 10 championships there. So smaller
Title
school that
Town.
some people may think of a sister school in the UNC system, but pretty rich in athletics. Like I said, a lot of our fans look at our department through the lens of men's basketball, but we're really a lot more than just men's basketball. But men's basketball right now, with the way our arena, Trash Coliseum, we've been selling it out pretty regularly here recently, which is nice. Holds 5,200, and I think we've had a sellout maybe the last 6 or 7 games here this season. So they're rabid fans, especially when it comes to men's basketball. And those that can afford to get out to Wichita will
Oh,
be out
gotta
there.
do
So
it.
I'm sure we'll have a little section of teal in the arena come Thursday.
Amongst the red. Yeah, there'll be a lot of Texas Tech fans there.
Yeah,
I'm excited for you to meet them, especially fellow broadcasters, the
yeah.
radio crew and TV crew for Texas Tech that'll be there doing what they do. They're great people. You'll enjoy them. So I really appreciate you coming on here. Everybody, call them UNCW. Don't do
That's
it to
right.
them. Don't do it to them. You're
not
about to
not
get a lot of
Wilmington, not
S's.
UNC dash
Wilmington.
Wilmington.
That's you gave them
Yes,
all the firepower they needed. Every tweet Texas Tech fans
there.
use will just be Wilmington the rest of the week. No, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
make sure we
exactly,
say
exactly.
UNCW on our show when we talk about y'all later in the week. So no, I appreciate you coming on. I'm really excited to watch this game. 9:10 Central, 10:10
Yeah,
Eastern, which we all know if you're a March Madness fan really means 9:30, 10:30, because all these games get pushed back
exactly,
as the game goes. So
exactly.
grab your caffeine, take a nap if you need to, because I think at least early elbows, everything's gonna be flying in a respectful way, but
Yeah,
everybody's gonna be lots
like
of
I said,
bruises, lots
I
of
think
toughness
it's a
happening.
good matchup. It's 2 teams that again, you look on paper, they seem very similar. So it'll be interesting, and again, with how toughness is going to be the key word, and how physical they're going to be. The true key might be the officiating crew and
Right.
how they decide to call this
I
game,
agree.
right? Because again, if,
Foul
if
trouble
they
and
let
all the
them play a little
things.
bit, like we've seen a lot during the season, I'm sure in both conferences, you're good. But if they decide to start calling it by the book, or calling it tight, that could be the difference. Whether whose key player is sitting on the bench for quite a
Yeah.
while. So that'll be interesting to see early on. Again, how the games are called, maybe across the country. I don't know if sometimes an initiative goes out to these officials as they start the tournament. So we'll see if that has an effect. You hope it doesn't. You hope it's
It's gotten
again,
us
everything
in
is
years
is
past.
plays out on the court as you want it to. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a sensitive topic for Texas
Yeah.
Tech fans because it's very physical basketball in the Big 12, and then we get
Yes.
into the tournament and they all decide that we're not allowed to play basketball anymore. So I think
And,
both of
and
our
I'm sure
teams
both
would be
coaches will say, "Hey,
happy if
listen,
they let us
yeah,
play.
we're a physical team. They're a physical
Yeah.
team. Just keep that in mind."
Yeah, I bet they will. I bet they'll have a talk with them because otherwise both teams are going to foul out like
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
way that we both play. So we're going to
exactly.
have to adjust. So appreciate you coming on, Mike. This was a
Thank
great
you,
time. I
Shelby.
think fans got to know UNCW a little bit more, the Seahawks, and we're going to have a good time on Thursday. So best of luck to you. Travel safe
Thank
to
you. You too.
Wichita and have a great, not too long of a trip, but a trip to Wichita.
Yeah,
Good time. And we'll talk another time. Maybe we'll play y'all in baseball, softball. I don't
there you
know.
go. There you
We'll get you
go.
on the show again down the line.
Thank you, Shelby. Appreciate you having me. Great to be with you today.
Great to have you. All right. We usually say Reckham, but I'm not going to make you do that, so I'll just say bye for now.
Say what?
We usually end the show with a rectum, but I'm not
Oh,
going to. Wait, that's the last question. Does UNCW have a hand sign?
yeah, it's kind of
Oh, like
this.
birds. Oh.
Yeah. So when we're at the free throw line, you'll see people do
Oh my
this.
God, that's adorable. I like
Yeah.
that, but not too
Yeah.
much. Okay, so rectum in this. We'll see y'all
There you go. There you go.
later this week on
And
Seahawks
and,
Guys.
and Sammy Seahawk is our mascot. It's Sammy, the letter C,
That makes
and
sense.
then the word hawk.
I love it. Sammy the Seahawk. All
Yeah.
right.
So
Bye.